Yeah.
When they got that model, there wasn't even a big hug or a conversation, but they not only did it, but did it in such a way that they knew that they had their dignity getting that meal. They participated. So
Yeah.
when we went on the same block, the third step on the same block to our current location, it was an auto body shop. It was yucked. It was yucked. There were
Yeah.
3 bays, 3 cinder block walls. Dorothea walked in there and says, I see the vision. So we turned it into this place. Again, that took a little acclimation from the locals.
Well, it takes education because it was a new model. So people have to understand you're not a soup kitchen,
Yep.
you're not a restaurant, but we are a restaurant posing as a social mission. So people have to understand this is a completely new concept. So people.
I would correct, not posing.
No,
You're a
right.
restaurant with
You're
a
right.
purpose. You're a
yes.
restaurant with a mission.
Absolutely.
Right?
Correct.
So
Right.
it's
Maybe
very
it's the other way
clear.
around. We're a social mission posing as a restaurant because the food is the vehicle to get people inside so that we can kind of help them get to the next level. So it was a new concept, and it was not something people thought, oh, it's a vanity project. Oh,
No.
they're not really doing their mission. But on any given day, we are probably 50% of our people are in need and 50% of the people are paying.
So what is the biggest misconception? That
What
you
hunger
got-
looks like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what hunger and
People-
homelessness,
and
right?
homelessness. Most
Yeah.
people feel that people want to be homeless. People are lazy. People don't want to work. They just want entitlements. You could not live on food stamps in this country. And where we live where the Soul Kitchen is in Red Bank, the real cost of living is about $76,000 a year for a family of 4. To be considered living in poverty, it's $24,000. So to qualify for any kind of services, it's $24,000. So you've got a $50,000 gap where people don't, they can't apply for anything. So those are people who never go on a vacation. These people aren't living large. They're just trying to get by. And Soul Kitchen is that resource where they could come once a week, stretch their bills, because people are saying, oh, am I going to pay my doctor bill? Am I going to pay my heat bill? Or am I going to feed my family?
So do you think that, and I know you went down and because we're having this conversation during the government shutdown and stepped up yourself in that space and said, I'm going to feed,
Right.
Government workers. And I think even with this government shutdown, people think, a government shutdown, it's only affecting congressmen and senators. And
Right.
they don't realize.
Right. Your FDA, your IRS, your Coast
TSA.
Guard,
Coast Guard,
TSA.
yeah.
Coast Guard, the TSA, I think they said make
$30,000.
$30,000 a year. Who could go a month without their paycheck on $30,000 a year?
Somebody said, I remember when I was doing the documentary Paycheck to Paycheck, a woman said to me, you don't know how hard it is to be poor.
Oh my gosh. And that's the other thing that people don't realize. People who are struggling just to pay those bills, it's very difficult to plan your life. One car, break down, one flat tire, or whatever it is, that it just, throws the whole family into disarray.
So where do you get the hope? I mean, because you're down there, you're having, building this restaurant, building this community, building conversation, building hope. And, so many people feel pretty hopeless today, hopeless about our country, hopeless about our government, hopeless about the divide.
Well, I always say it's very easy to get overwhelmed with all the negativity that we see, and everyone says it too. But at the end of the day, when we all sit down, and I think breaking bread is the way that we break down those barriers. And when I see people who didn't know each other before they came to the restaurant sit down, you can tell everyone's a little uncomfortable, but by the end, they are exchanging phone numbers. They are, telling each other about resources. They are supporting each other. That is, that's the humanity of America that I see every day. People who want to help each other, people who want their dignity, people who aren't just looking for, how can I get by on? I mean, maybe people come in and take advantage. I've never seen it, and most people don't want to do that.
So you feel like people aren't coming in and like using it
Absolutely
and not giving back. Not
Absolutely
at all.
not. And even for the furloughed workers who are going without paychecks, so many of them said to me, I'm coming back and I'm volunteering when I start getting a paycheck. Or we had other workers that had been furloughed, previously, and they said, I'm not furloughed. Here's a donation because I know what it's like to be furloughed and have that hanging over your head.
Don't go away. We'll have more of the conversation in just a moment. But first, let's talk about one of our sponsors. Meaningful Conversations with Maria Shriver is brought to you by Swell Investing. Do you know what your 401k is invested in? It turns out many retirement accounts are invested in companies and industries that aren't making a positive impact on our society. Swell Investing was created to change that. Swell is an online impact investing platform that builds portfolios of stocks from high-growth potential companies working towards progress. With Swell, you can align your investments with the issues you care about, from renewable energy to disease eradication or clean water. So invest in the planet's future and your financial success at the same time by opening up an IRA with Swell today. The best news? Investing in an IRA now can increase your tax return for 2018. You have until April 15th to max out your contributions. That's making money and making a difference. Visit swellinvesting.com/meaningful to start investing with your values in mind. Do it today for a $50 bonus when you open an account. Swell. Invest in progress. Now let's get back to the conversation. So the title of this podcast is Meaningful Conversations, and I'm a big believer in meaningful conversations, connections, because I think that's why we're here, and it's what makes us
Human.
feel connected as human beings, right? So I want to, since I love and admire both of you, I want to ask where you find meaning yourself in your day-to-day life.
Giving back, I
Yeah.
find purpose. It's so much more than singing in a rock and roll band. I mean, that was wonderful to get everything else that we've gotten out of
Yeah.
life, right? It gave me the opportunity to do so many other things. But the idea that you're giving back in a meaningful, purposeful way, and what I always say is I didn't need a scientist to find the cure, because all we're doing is feeding folks, breaking bread, as we say. That to us has been as purposeful as my career has been, and it's as satisfying in many, many ways. You leave the kitchens and you think, wow, that made me feel good. I'm exhausted from it, by the way.
Yeah.
You think, oh, washing dishes, how hard can that be? Stand on your feet for a few hours and do that, and then you go, holy Christmas, that's hard work.
Yeah.
But it really gives you a joyful feeling in your heart to know the lives that we've affected, lives that we've changed, the sense of community when these folks that come and they volunteer on a weekly or sometimes daily basis, they have someone to talk to.
Yeah.
A lot of those who don't understand something like the Soul Kitchen, their opinions are based in fear because they've never been in a situation like that. And I'd had people years ago say, oh, there's no hungry people in Monmouth County, New Jersey. Oh, there's no homeless people here. How could that be? They just didn't know. So it's fear-based, right? It's lack of initiative to go out and figure it out. So then they say, well, I'm not coming to the restaurant. Well, why? Some will say, there's nothing there for me, or I don't know what it is, so I'm afraid to go there. And when you realize that you get such joy out of meeting your neighbor in a communal setting, you'll want to come back. You really will. I've often said this too, and I won't hog the microphone, but if you don't volunteer in the model and you just came to give money and have a meal and leave, you sort of feel like you're missing out on the party. You want to take part in what this model is, this creation is.
I was talking to Hoda Kotb on this conversation, and she said that she sat down next to a man on an airplane when she was struggling with breast cancer. And this was a total stranger sitting next to her, and he started to pepper her with questions, and she was tired, and she just had surgery, and she was grumpy. And so he was kind of cheery. Oh, I met, you work on one of the Today shows. What's your name? Blah, blah, blah. And she had a compression thing on her hand. And he's like, well, why do you have that on? She said, well, I was sick. I had an operation. He goes, what operation? She was like, oh, and then she's like, okay, listen, I had breast cancer. And I don't want you to get off of this plane and feel bad for me and just think, oh, I sat next to a woman with breast cancer. And he said, let me tell you something. He goes, don't hog your journey. just made me think about it. He goes, don't hog your journey. You have no idea how many lives you can affect by talking about this.
Right.
And it seems to me, I just love that it kind of gave, she told the story a little bit better than I just did, but it gave me goosebumps because the idea that, you know, you're sharing your journey, you're not hogging your journey, and you're allowing others in the restaurant to share theirs. And that's what gives us goosebumps.
Right.
And that's what brings meaning to your life.
And it brings meaning to their lives because they
Right.
are able to share it and
Yeah.
and not feel isolated. And also, you don't know how it's going to impact somebody else.
Amen. That's what I say
Yeah.
because people will come up to me all the time and go, you know, I can't find my purpose. I can't find my purpose. And they're so anxious about not being able to find their purpose. And I said, well, what brings you meaning? That's a kind of a less
Right.
volatile word or something. It's like, well, I enjoy like art or I enjoy cooking. Or I said, like, follow that. Follow that and maybe take that to the next step. And so how did you kind of follow
You know
this
what? It was
story
just like
of
this
food?
Yeah, it was this crazy
ask
thing.
me. I know the
no,
answer.
I know the answer too.
He was
She's
raising
hugging
his
me.
I was
hand, but I'm going to
watching-
call him the girl.
I was watching Brian Williams, and he was doing a making a difference.
Yeah.
You know when he used to do
when
that
it was
segment.
only once a week.
Yeah, that's right. At the end of
And-
the show.
right.
'Cause
And
we
it
only
was-
have time for one make a difference.
And there's only
Only
one
one
happy
nice
one story,
story.
one happy story. So this happy story was about a diner in Denver that was doing, it was a community restaurant. And this is kind of a movement across the country where they do a pay what you can type of model. And, you know, they would give people, you know, food and then people would leave them a few cents if they couldn't pay or, you know, whatever.
Right.
And I just became obsessed with this idea of what if it was a beautiful restaurant where people could get healthy food? Because the other side of poverty is obesity, because cheap food is so unhealthy and it's horrible for you. So I thought, what if you could have beautiful gardens growing food out front, and you could feed people and show them what the proper serving sizes were. And I kind of just became obsessed with this idea, and I started calling everyone I knew who had a restaurant, and I said, how much does it cost to start a restaurant? How do you do it? Blah 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 blah. And you know, people were very happy to help, and that's the other side of it. People want to help, and we started with a pilot program because we didn't know what else to do, and we walked into the local church, like John said, and they had a giant kitchen where you could probably make 100 meals. And they said, "Would you think this would work?" And we said, "Yeah, I think this will work." And we just we set out surveys because we didn't just we wanted to see, would people react to this type of model? Would people be interested in doing this? And we surveyed the population in the church, and they had a food pantry there. And so that's who our first clients were people from that food pantry.
And you just kept going.
And we did it one day a week.
One.
And at that model, 60% of the people were in need, but 40% of the paying customers were covering the costs. So
60%
were in need,
and 40% were paying.
covering the costs of that. So we thought, oh, this could be something that people would get behind.
So now you get to say, you raised your hand and you get to expand on what she said. It's your turn.
Well, taking a step back, when I started the foundation, it was under the guise of sports ownership. Many, many years ago, I used to own an arena football team, and I thought, what would differentiate me
You're
from...
a frustrated NFL owner.
As you know.
Not
yes,
anymore.
as I know.
No
Not
longer.
anymore?
No.
He's
Oh,
over
okay.
that.
My
over
scars
that.
have now
He's over
healed.
it?
Yeah.
Yes.
That lasted a long time.
It
I
did.
know it did.
Okay, but we're
But
over
when
it.
we started the
Okay.
foundation, we tried to find something that we got involved in ultimately, which was the homeless issue. And having met Sister Mary Scullion down in Philadelphia,
Yeah.
we started with homelessness, and that was going well. And in truth, we built the first couple of homes, and then the first couple of 100 homes. And whenever I would tell our friends, you know what I'd get? Attaboy, attaboy. Nobody was excited about it. And I knew we were affecting change, and I knew we were making a difference in those few hundred families' lives. But a lot of our friends would say, that's nice. Well, when we're watching that Brian Williams segment, it was during the economic downturn. It was at the end of 2008. And Dorothea realized when the tax credits were drying up, partnerships were drying up, we weren't building as much